Ellie Harper, a young woman working the graveyard shift at a rural Nebraska gas station, encounters a mysterious man who seems to appear and vanish without a trace. When a frightened woman named Mara seeks refuge in the store, claiming the man is stalking her, Ellie is drawn into a chilling game of cat and mouse. As strange events escalate, unexplained scratches on the bathroom wall, notes with cryptic messages, and a black SUV that defies the security cameras, Ellie must confront the possibility that the man is more than just a stalker. With no clear answers and the police unable to help, Ellie and Mara face a growing sense of dread, unsure if they can ever escape his gaze. The gas station sat on a desolate stretch of Route 17, just outside a small town in rural Nebraska. It was a squat, faded building with 2 pumps and a flickering neon sign that read, "Open 24/7. Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and motor oil, and the fluorescent lights buzzed like trapped flies. She'd taken the graveyard shift to save up for a move to Omaha, where she hoped to start a new life. But tonight, the air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing, though the sky was clear. Ellie adjusted her oversized flannel over her uniform and glanced at the security monitor. The lot was empty, the highway silent except for the occasional hum of a passing car. The cooler's hum seemed too loud, the clock's tick uneven. His hands were stuffed in his pockets and he wasn't moving, just standing there, head tilted slightly toward the store. Maybe he was waiting for a ride, she told herself, but the way he stayed so still like a statue made her uneasy. By 1:30, a lone trucker came in for a coffee, his boots clomping on the linoleum. The man was still there, his posture unchanged. The trucker didn't seem to notice him, just nodded and left. Ellie's unease grew. She considered calling her boss, but what would she say? Some guys standing outside? That wasn't enough to call the cops. At 2 a.m., she looked again. He'd moved closer, maybe 15 feet, now standing near the edge of the pump island. She hadn't seen him walk. One moment he was by the streetlight, the next he was here. She grabbed her phone, ready to dial the non-emergency line, when the door chime rang. "Can I stay here for a bit?" she asked, her voice low, almost a whisper. "It's not safe out there." Ellie hesitated. You okay? Need me to call someone?" Something in her tone, desperate but controlled, made Ellie nod. The woman, who introduced herself as Mara, bought a bottle of water and sat at the counter, her eyes fixed on the front windows. Every few seconds, she glanced at the parking lot, her fingers gripping the bottle tightly. Ellie tried to focus on her tasks, but she kept stealing glances at Mara and the monitor. The man was still out there, now standing by the pump closest to the store. Who's out there? And why won't he leave? The man outside hadn't budged, his silhouette stark against the flickering pump light. Ellie's gut told her to keep the doors locked, but the store was technically open. She couldn't justify it without a real threat. Still, she moved the baseball bat from under the counter to a shelf within reach. Around 2:30 a.m., Mara spoke, her voice barely audible. "He's been following me." Mara nodded, her eyes still on the window. "I don't know his name. He's been showing up wherever I go. Parking lots, rest stops, even outside my motel last week. He never says anything, just watches. They said he hasn't done anything illegal. No threats, no contact, just standing there." Ellie glanced at the monitor. The man had moved again, now just outside the store's entrance, his face obscured by the cap's shadow. She dialed the non-emergency line, her voice low as she explained. A man loitering, possibly following a customer, acting suspicious. Ellie's head snapped up. The man was inside. He stood just past the threshold, hands still in his pockets, cap low. Mara shrank back, her chair scraping against the floor. "Hey," Ellie said, her voice sharper than she intended. "Can I help you?" He didn't answer, just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying her. His eyes caught the light, pale, almost reflective. "Just looking," he said, his voice low and gravelly, like he hadn't spoken in days. Ellie gripped the phone tighter. "We're closing soon. You need to buy something or leave." Mara didn't answer. Her hands trembled as she clutched her backpack. Ellie stepped closer to the bat. "She's fine," he smiled, a thin, unsettling curve of his lips, and turned toward the door. But instead of leaving, he paused, his hand on the glass. "You should lock this at night," he said, almost to himself. Ellie locked the door behind him, her hands shaking. Mara let out a shaky breath. What does he want? And why does he keep moving without being seen? Ellie unlocked the door to let them in, explaining what had happened. Mara gave a vague description: tall, dark jacket, baseball cap, but her voice cracked and she kept glancing at the windows. The officers checked the lot, their flashlights sweeping over the pumps and the empty highway. The man was gone. "He was right there," Ellie said, pointing to the spot by the entrance. "He came inside." One officer, a woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, nodded. "We'll patrol the area. Keep the door locked after midnight and call us if he shows up again." Mara stayed until 4 a.m. when Ellie's shift ended. Ellie offered to drive her to a motel, but Mara shook her head. "I'll walk. He won't follow me tonight, not after the cops." Ellie watched her disappear down the highway, her figure fading into the pre-dawn haze. She checked the security footage before leaving, rewinding to the moment the man entered. No movement, no walking. He was just suddenly at the door. A glitch, she told herself, but her stomach churned. Around 2 a.m., a car pulled into the lot, a black SUV idling at the far edge just beyond the floodlights. Ellie's pulse quickened. The driver's window was tinted, but she could make out a silhouette. It wasn't moving, just sitting there facing the store. She grabbed her phone, ready to call the cops, when the SUV's headlights flicked on, blinding her for a moment. Then it pulled out, tires crunching on gravel, and sped down the highway. Ellie exhaled, her hands shaking. She checked the footage later. The SUV appeared in one frame, then vanished in the next. Is he gone for good? Or is he just waiting for the right moment? A week later, Ellie was on edge. She hadn't seen Mara or the man since that night, but the station felt different now. The hum of the cooler sounded like a whisper, the shadows outside too sharp. She started locking the door at midnight, even though it was against policy. Her boss didn't care as long as the pump stayed open. One night while cleaning the bathroom, Ellie noticed something odd. The bathroom was a cramped, single-stall room with peeling paint and a flickering light. She'd checked it earlier, but now on the far wall, there were scratches. Deep, deliberate marks, like someone had dragged a knife across the paint. They formed a pattern, almost like letters, but not quite readable. Ellie's breath caught. She hadn't heard anyone come in. She checked the footage. At 1:47 a.m., the bathroom door opened, but no one appeared on camera. Just the door, swinging shut. Her skin crawled. She called the cops again, but they found nothing. No fingerprints, no sign of forced entry. Could be vandalism, one officer said. Kids, maybe. Ellie didn't buy it. She started carrying a pocket knife just in case. A few nights later, Mara returned. She looked worse, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. "He's still out there," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He left something for me." She pulled a crumpled note from her pocket. It was written in jagged handwriting. "I see you. Taped to my motel door," Mara said. 2 days ago. Ellie convinced Mara to stay until dawn. Around 3 a.m., headlights appeared in the distance. The black SUV was back idling in the same spot. Ellie grabbed the phone, but before she could dial, Mara whispered, "Don't. He wants you to react." The SUV stayed for a minute, then drove off. Ellie checked the footage later, just static where the car should have been. The next night, Ellie found another note taped to the store's glass door. "You can lock me out." She quit the job a week later, but the feeling of being watched never left her. Sometimes in her new apartment, she'd hear a faint tap on the window. She never looked. Who was he? And how does he keep finding them?